I was halfway through sharpening the blades on my old hand planer when the phone buzzed on the workbench. The shop smelled of cedar shavings and cold iron, little curls of wood piled up like sleepy question marks. Retired life has a rhythm if you let it. You wake up with the sun, you make something with your hands, you leave things better than you found them. That principle carried me through 38 years as an engineer and a long, soft landing into retirement, a landing I thought would feel smoother with family close. The message was from my son Artem. 34, professional problem solver, the kind of boy who used to fix Lego cars with tweezers. He became a man who uses words like deliverable and bandwidth, and I am proud of him. When his engagement party took shape, I was the first to say I'd help. I prepaid the venue because the manager knew me and gave a better rate if the contract went in my name. I prepaid the catering for the same reason: one signature, one card, one father who wanted to be useful. The screen showed a long bubble. "Hey, Dad. Quick update. Dasha and I talked, and we're going for a small, intimate format. Just our close circle. No parents. Love you. Small, intimate format. No parents." The planer blade caught a sliver of skin and I watched a bright pin of blood form without feeling the cut. I wiped it away with a rag, set the tool down, and reread the message. Then I read it again. "Love you," at the end, as if love were a period that made everything acceptable. My mind did what it always does, pulled the situation apart into its components. Requirement: a party. Constraints: head count, budget, venue capacity, the weight of family history. Risks: bruised feelings, reputational fallout, contract terms. I held each piece up to the light like gears in a movement. The gear that glinted most was the contract. In my name. I considered the urge to call him. To ask, calmly, whether I counted in a close circle. Whether a father who taught him to ride a bike in parallel park might be close enough. But I know how arguments go when a child is 34. They are drafted in advance and filed like taxes. I am not a lawyer. I am an engineer. I don't argue with gravity. I design around it. I put the phone face down and flipped the breaker to power down the shop. The house was quiet enough to hear the radiators talk. The holiday promotion emails kept swimming into my inbox: discounts, last chances, bright banners. In the kitchen, the kettle clicked on. I stood with my palms on the cool countertop and thought of all the words I could say, and how none of them would feel like winning. I poured tea, drank half, and looked out the window. The lake, a blue coin, lay 2 hours north by the old highway. The cabin was mine now, drafty, stubborn, a low-ceilinged place with a stove that roared like a tired lion. My late wife, Katya, always said the cabin reset us when life scrambled our settings. The solution edged into view like a shoreline in fog. Don't argue. Smile. Go to the lake. I typed 2 words to Artem. Understood. Thumbs up. Then I pulled a duffel from the hall closet and packed like I do for repairs. The essentials, neatly nested: wool socks, thermos, a legal pad, my pen, the folder with the venue contract, and a photocopy of the catering invoice in the side pocket. Somewhere in the packing I smiled for real. Not a spiteful smile. A smile that felt like flipping a switch off before you open the panel. Safety first. By the time the kettle clicked again in the cabin that night, I had watched the highway unspool in the windshield and let the small towns pass like short stories. The lake is quiet in winter. It wears the sky like a heavy coat, and the trees huddle and gossip in the wind. I snacked the fire, coaxed the stove to life, and sat at the table with a legal pad. Dear Anya, I wrote to the venue manager I'd known since her father ran the place. As per contract number 1174, please accept this written notice to cancel the booking on December 24th. The contract is in my name, and I am exercising my right to cancel. I quoted the clause that allows cancellation, the one I circled in pencil when we signed. I noted the payment timeline. I attached scanned copies, thank you, portable scanner, and sent the email before the fire had established itself. Then I wrote to the caterer, clear and cordial. I kept it clean. No backstory. No blame. I went outside and let the cold rake my lungs. The stars were unreasonable, a book with every page open. Somewhere across the water a fox barked. I pictured my son's text again, the neat, almost managerial efficiency of it, and something in me let go like a knot finding fresh water. The tea warmed my hands. Inside, the stove clicked and expanded, and if there was any sound like judgment, I didn't hear it. I slept as if someone had turned down the gravity. In the morning, ice made lace on the inside of the cabin windows. I ran a finger along an arc, a habit from drafting days, and heard my own father saying, "Measure twice. Cut once." He measured his words, too. It wasn't silence, it was carefulness. That's what I wanted for myself and selfishly, for my son, a default setting of respect that doesn't ask to be earned. I fired up the generator, checked my inbox, and found the reply from Anya, short, professional, a kind regret folded into it. Of course, Mr. Ilchenko. Received and confirmed. Per Clause 5.2, we will retain the 10% cancellation fee and process a refund of the remainder to your card within 7 to 10 business days. We hope to host you another time. The caterer's email landed a minute later. Understood. We'll cancel the order and issue a partial refund as agreed. A PDF of the updated invoice attached. Contracts can be cold, but they are also honest. Honest things are kinder than warm lies. I brewed coffee and wrote out a plan in the pen-scratch shorthand that still makes me feel 25. Step 1. Do not argue. Step 2. Be reachable, but only by my rules. Step 3. Prepare my home in case I decide to host whoever wants to come. Step 4. Remember, this is not revenge. This is boundaries. The phone buzzed again, family group chat, lively as always in December. My sister sent a meme about ugly sweaters. An aunt asked what time the party started on the 24th because her babysitter needed to know. I typed, "I'm out at the lake for a few days. We'll update later." Neutral. A weather report. Every tool I owned wanted to be touched. I oiled the hinges, tightened cabinet pulls, reseated a loose step. Between tasks I sat and let my mind wander to the day Artem was born, a snowstorm day, traffic stalled, the car radio stuck on one station. I parked near the hospital entrance and sprinted with Katya's overnight bag, and the nurse laughed at my red cheeks. "You're early," she said, and I thought she meant for the baby. But she meant my joy. When you're an engineer, you imagine a future as a set of tolerances. The world will warp the peace in this way, so you allow for it. The child will grow, test, rebel, come home. You give a little so the fit is right. But there are failures that come from perfect fits, too tight to be practical. The phrase, "no parents," had that feel, machined to precision, damaging in use. Around noon I chopped wood. The rhythm undid the tightness in the backs of my shoulders. I pictured the event as it was supposed to be, fairy lights, speeches, a brittle laugh or two, congratulations ringing like coins. Then I pictured myself there, invisible, my punishment for being a father at the wrong distance. I set the block, raised the axe, and the thoughts split neatly. Mid-afternoon, an email pinged, automated confirmation of refund initiation. It made me smile again because it made something real. Often, people think feelings are real only when they are loud. My best feelings, the love in the shop, the patience at a broken hinge, are quiet. They are screws you tighten, they are wood you sand. At sunset I drove back to town. In the rearview, the lake held a bruise of pink and orange. I stopped for groceries, yeast, flour, good olives, a wheel of cheese the size of a ship's wheel to make Katya's bread recipe. If I hosted the 24th, I would do it well. No private caterer, just a stove and honest food. Hosting without an invitation is tricky. But who, exactly, invited me to fatherhood? Life, I suppose. Life never sent an RSVP card. It handed me a sleeping boy and said, "Now?" At home, I did not unlock the door immediately. I stood on the porch and listened to the draft in the gutter, the way our house sighed around old bricks. On the mat, a piece of mail had fallen, a shiny card from Artem and Dasha, a photograph from their engagement shoot. Their faces were bright, almost overexposed. On the back, in her tidy script, Dasha had written, We can't wait to celebrate a life together built on our terms. I traced the words with a thumb. I believed in terms. Terms kept bridges from collapsing and friendships from rotting. But the terms have to be shared, not imposed. Our terms, not yours or mine. I put the card on the mantel, straightened a small painting, my wife's, and went to bed early. My phone slept on the kitchen charger, face down. I woke at 5, as I always do. Retirement hasn't changed my clock. Coffee, quiet, a slow walk through the rooms of the house I've kept upright, one liner of caulk at a time. It is not a palace. It is honest. The floorboards announce themselves. The furnace clanks like a cheerful drunk in the walls. It's the sound of a life that never had to pretend to be larger than it is. I put a pot of bones and vegetables on to simmer for broth. Bread dough rose on the back of the stove, bowl under a towel with a blue stripe. I wrote a list, not because I needed it but because lists soothe me the way maps soothe people who fear getting lost. Sweep walk and porch. Check extra chairs, tighten legs. Find extension cords. Clean guest bathroom mirror, please. Set aside spare blankets. Call Aunt Ira and Uncle Vlad if needed. Buy more tea. Halfway through tightening the third chair leg, I thought about load-bearing walls. People call them that out of habit, but a wall doesn't choose to bear a load, it is built to. Remove it, and everything above sags in slow motion until it doesn't. Families have load-bearing people. Often their fathers. Often their mothers. Sometimes their grandparents or that one cousin who always knows the time of day. We don't see the bearing until we try to move it. Then something sags we didn't expect. Around 9, another message from Artem. Hey, Dad. Just confirming we're still good for the 24th. Need final numbers for the caterer. No rush. A lesser man would have typed. Funny you should ask. I typed. Please coordinate with the venue and caterer directly for your final numbers. Then I deleted it. The tactically correct thing would be to state a fact without heat. So I wrote. I cancelled the bookings last night. The contracts are in my name. You and Dasha are welcome to host your celebration elsewhere. Let me know if you need a copy of the cancellation confirmation. For a long minute the typing dots pulsed and vanished. Then, wait. What? Dad, why? We talked about a small format. We never asked you to cancel. My fingers hovered above the phone. I rehearsed a lecture I would not give. Instead, you specified no parents. The contract is in my name. I do not host events that exclude me by category. You're adults, you can make other arrangements. I love you. The dots came back. This is petty. Please reconsider. Not petty. I wrote. Policy. Silence. I set the phone down, breathed through a surge of heat, and took a walk in the cold to cool it. It is a strange feeling, defending a boundary your child doesn't believe exists. They think you're a public park. You know you're a house with a front door that opens when people knock kindly. On the sidewalk, a neighbor waved. Big plans for the holiday? He yelled through his scarf. Still deciding, I said, which was as true as any other answer. When I returned, there was another message. Dasha this time. Hi, Mr. Ilchenko. Artem is upset. We didn't mean to hurt you. This is just how we want it. Can you please uncancel? It's too late to change vendors. I stared at that line. Too late to change vendors. Engineers like to think in failure modes. One such mode is assuming an emergency makes physics negotiable. It does not. Momentum doesn't care about your schedule. I wrote. I can't uncancel. The venue has booked the date for someone else now. That last sentence was technically an inference, but people don't leave December 24th empty long. You're welcome at my home on the 24th if you want to celebrate with family. The invitation is open. 4 hours went by. I made soup. The house filled with the smell of something good and slowly earned. Another email from the venue appeared, matter of fact. We have rebooked the date. Refund minus fee processed. I replied with a thank you and wished them a good holiday. At 3, my sister called. I heard a rumor, she said. That the party is smaller. Should I still buy those sparklers? I told her I might host. She sniffed. Then I'll bring the sparklers to your place, she said, settled it like a woman shutting a cupboard gently, like something that will be used again, not slammed shut as a threat. Evening crept in. I pulled the bread from the oven and tapped its bottom. It thumped like a heartbeat. Warmth rose from the crust as if it had something to say. I sliced a heel and spread butter until it shone. Standing at the counter, I tasted the simplest food and felt steady enough to be a person other people might want to be around. Before bed, I wrote a note and pinned it to the inside of my skull, the way you do when you really mean it. Tomorrow, if anyone calls, I will listen. I will not be baited. And on the 24th, I will let the day be what it decides to be. December 24th arrived the way winter days do, pale light shouldering the dark aside. I woke to my phone lit like a small city, notifications, most not for me. The family chat pulsed with locations and, "Can you pick up Aunt Svetlana?" And, "I made the cranberry thing." My name did not appear. That stung more than I thought it would, but pain tells you where the wound is, it doesn't decide for you. I had expected at least one miraculous solution from Artem, some last-minute co-working space rented, some roof deck with heat lamps. Engineers can be arrogant about the solvability of problems. So can their children. I planned my day anyway. I ironed a shirt. I stacked plates. I laid a table in case there were guests, and in case there were none. Folding napkins is a meditation if you let it. At 10 my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Another unknown number, then a third. I don't answer vehicles without plates. The fourth was Anya from the venue, her name on the display. I answered. "Hello, Mr. Ilchenko," she said, voice tight. "I thought you should know that a young man and woman came in insisting there was a mistake. Security handled it, but I wanted to confirm with you that all is okay." My chest tightened, not with anger but with the grief of a man who can picture the whole scene. My son's jaw set, Dasha with a clipboard of details that mean nothing now, the trainer at the desk saying, "I'm sorry, the contract holder cancelled." "Thank you," I told Anya. "It's okay. Please be kind to them. They're having a tough morning." After we hung up, I made tea and stood at the sink. I counted backward from 10 twice and then a third time, out of superstition. On the counter, the bread from yesterday waited under a towel like a secret not yet told. I sliced it into thick pieces and put the kettle back on. Hospitality is not a mood. It's a practice like scales on a piano. At 11:31, my phone glowed, 8 missed calls. By noon, 13. By 1 o'clock, 24. 24 missed calls. Read the banner, like a chapel bell rung with unnecessary enthusiasm. I put the phone down very carefully, as if it might go off like a firecracker. The soup simmered low. I stirred. I put out pickles and mustard and made a small board of cheese with rye bread and remembered Katya's way of cutting an apple, 8 perfect slices. There's a very specific joy to preparing a welcome without knowing if anyone will come. It's the joy of building something that isn't wasted even if it isn't used. A well-set table is never wasted. At 1:15, I called Artem back. Calm. My voice was the lake. He answered halfway into the first ring. "Dad! Where are you? The venue says you cancelled, the caterer refunded. Do you know what you've done? People are driving." "I know exactly what I've done," I said. "I honored your request for a small, intimate format without parents. I cancelled the event I was paying for because you chose an event that excluded me by category." "You're punishing us," he said, breathless. "We didn't mean." "I'm enforcing a boundary," I said. "You're free to host a party that excludes me. You're not free to use my name and money to host it." Silence. In the background I heard Dasha say something sharp, then the muted tone of a hand over the microphone. When his voice came back, it was smaller. "We can't find any place that will take us," he said. "It's Christmas Eve." "Yes," I said. "And it's late." I let the quiet span between us. You can be cruel with quiet, or you can be respectful. My quiet held a chair and an open door. "You're welcome to come here," I said. "Anyone is. I've got food. We can light candles and go for a walk. Or you can regroup and do it your way another day. But today will not be paid for or hosted by someone you did not invite." He exhaled. "People will talk," he said. "They will," I agreed. "Let them say we're a family that has hard conversations. Let them say your father is old-fashioned about respect. I can live with that. We'll call you back," he said. "Give us a minute." "Take an hour," I said. "Take two." When we hung up, I felt an emotion that did not have a name when I was younger because we were not allowed to speak it aloud, relief that did not need someone else to lose to let me win. I washed the knife. I wiped the counter. The kettle hissed. I went to the door and, without thinking, set a second pair of shoes near the mat for a guest. At 2:00, and Ira arrived without asking. She hugged me and put a paper bag of oranges on the counter. "Children are fools," she said by way of greeting. "We forgive them." Her voice was a spoon in hot tea. Behind her, Uncle Vlad carried a box of fireworks with guilty pride. "Just in case," he said. My sister texted a photo of her car, nose deep in snow, 3 cousins in silly hats. 10 minutes, the caption read, which meant half an hour. The doorbell rang tenderly, like it was embarrassed to intrude. My neighbor, an elegant widow who wears brooches the size of rubles, brought a cake she could have kept for herself. "I heard there was drama," she said. "Drama likes cake." By 2:30, the house felt like a mug of something hot in 2 cold hands. People came in ones and twos, some unsure if they were allowed to be early, some slipping off shoes with the practiced humility of guests who have learned you always bring your own slippers. I made plates, I made tea, I made room. In a quiet corner of the kitchen, I pressed a hand to the wall and felt the vibration of conversation carry into the studs. We were load-bearing again. At 3, Artem texted, "We're coming." 3 simple words. My shoulders lowered by degrees. I wrote back, "Doors open." He replied with a thumbs up. I almost sent a heart and didn't, because small choices accumulate into tone and I wanted mine to be steady, not sentimental. The music was quiet, old jazz, Kadia's favorite. It made room for voices. When they arrived, I saw first the weather on them, snow in hair, flushed cheeks, then the pride trying to stand upright in wet boots. Dasha's mouth was a straight line, the way I've seen my sons become when a project goes sideways and he wants someone else to apologize for it. I took their coats. "Tea?" I asked. "Tea," she said neutrally. Artem hugged me. He held on longer than he meant to. In the kitchen, I handed Dasha a mug. She wrapped fingers around it like a person looking for her pulse. "I'm sorry," she said, and I felt both the bravery in it and the place where it didn't cover. "We didn't mean to exclude you. We just..." She looked at the steam as if it had instructions. "We wanted a certain vibe." "Minimalist," I said. "Yeah," she said, and laughed because I chose a kind word. "I thought it would be easier." "Sometimes easy and kind don't overlap," I said. "I can live with not being invited. But I won't host it." She nodded. "That's fair." "Then lower." We panicked. "We thought you'd fix it." "I did fix it," I said, and we both laughed again, soft and a little ridiculous. Artem came in and reached for an olive. He always reaches for the olives first. "People are going to ask what happened," he said. "I don't know what to tell them." "Tell them you learned something about contracts," I said. "Tell them we're a family with boundaries. Tell them we had soup at Dad's. Tell them we had the best soup at Dad's." And Ira yelled from the living room, because privacy evaporates when you leave the door open at holidays. Dasha smiled despite herself. The relief didn't arrive like a parade. It arrived like a thaw, drip, drip, drip. Before we ate, I stood by the table and said a few words. I am not a speechmaker. I don't enjoy the feeling that the floor wants to tilt me down. But sometimes the person who owns the house has to point at the exits and the bathrooms and the emergency plan. "Thank you for coming," I said. It means something to be in a room and decide to be kind to each other. Heads nodded, a small wind passing through trees. I won't lecture, I added, which naturally made everyone hopeful for a lecture. I'll just say this is my home. In my home, respect for parents is the default setting. If we want to change the settings, we do it together and we do it in the light. I love my son. I love the woman he chose. I love soup, bread, and people who do their best. Amen. Now please pass the pickles, Uncle Vlad said, rescuing us from too much sincerity. People ate. Someone put on a kettle again without asking. Cousins produced board games from nowhere like magicians who only do card tricks. Dasha helped wash dishes in a small truce that felt larger than it looked. When our hands met at the tap, water warm and running, she said quietly, I'm not used to asking older people how they feel about our plans. I'm not used to being asked, I said. We can teach each other. She nodded. Her ring threw a small ice-bright flare on the tile. Thank you for setting a line, she said. I didn't know we needed it until we crashed into it. You're welcome, I said and passed her a towel. By 6, the house was humming in that way that makes winter feel shorter, the thud of feet on stairs, a door opening to let in someone late, the shouty laughter that comes only from a game where cheating is encouraged. I stepped into the hallway and found Artem there alone, inspecting the photos on the wall. There's one of him at 8, face split by a missing tooth grin, holding a wooden boat we built, sanded too smooth, painted too blue. He touched the frame with one finger. Do you know what I remember about that day? He asked. The varnish fumes? I said. He smiled. You let me pick the color even though you hated it, he said. I didn't hate it, I said. I disliked it with conviction. But I loved your conviction more. He nodded. I've been thinking, he said, which translates to I bumped into a wall, and it made me quieter. When we wrote no parents on the plan, it felt like we were keeping it clean. Like there wouldn't be any complication. And today felt clean? I asked. He sighed. Today felt like we tried to pretend gravity wasn't real. You can float for a bit, I said. But then other things start to drift too. Doors don't line up. Shelves lean. He leaned his shoulder against the wall. Am I the shelf? He said. We all are, I said. But you're also the carpenter. He put both hands in his pockets and looked at his shoes. Dasha says we owe you an apology and a thank you. I say we owe you money. I'll take the first 2, I said. The money is between you and your own conscience. I'm fine. He shook his head. No. I need to pay my share of what you lost. He had that set of jaw again, but goal-directed now, not defensive. And we need new terms. Written terms? Not to be rigid. To be clear. Clarity is not rigidity, I said. It's kindness. We went into the kitchen where I keep a small whiteboard for lists. He uncapped a marker. Okay, he said. Terms for family events going forward. Tell me if I'm off. Try me, I said. 1. Whoever pays is in the room, unless they explicitly gift it with no strings. 2. I said. If you don't want someone at your event, you say it out loud and own the consequence. 3. He said, warming to the task. Parents get asked before plans are finalized, not informed after. 4. I offered. When in doubt, feed people. He grinned, wrote that one down bigger. 5. He said. If feelings get hurt, we talk face to face, not through group chats and forwarded emails. 6. I said. We forgive quickly and remember slowly. He underlined all 6 like a student who has finally understood a formula. Dasha came in mid-sentence, grabbed the marker, and added. 7. Respect is the default setting. She dotted the final period like a person staking a small claim. We took a photo of the board. I printed it and stuck it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. It felt too simple, writing the law of gravity on the wall and calling it new. But sometimes that's all people need, to be reminded that the floor is the floor, and the ceiling is the ceiling, and neither is a suggestion. Later, I took plates of leftovers to neighbors who live alone. When I came back, I caught a moment in the doorway, the living room lit like a stage, Artem showing Dasha how to shuffle cards, and Ira threatening everyone with dessert. I thought of all the events I've attended in my life, large and small, the complicated choreography of who sits where, who speaks, who eats last. How many of those felt like duty, like loud music over a broken speaker. And how quiet and sufficient this felt, earned, held. At 10, we bundled into coats and went out to the backyard. Snow squeaked under boots. Uncle Vlad set 3 small fireworks in the snow like metal tulips. For joy, he said. Not for revenge. We laughed because he had said the quiet part as if it were a recipe step. The rockets screeched up and popped into polite flowers of light. Someone gasped. Someone clapped with gloves on. In the dark, Artem put an arm around my shoulders. Thanks for designing around gravity, he said. It works every time, I said. Even when you wish it didn't. The next morning, the house smelled like spent matches and coffee. My phone had more messages. A few from guests who had driven around lost yesterday, asking where everyone went. One from a cousin I hadn't seen in years. Heard you hosted. Wish I'd come. Next time save me a chair. 2 from Dasha's friends, versions of, we're sorry we were unkind about parents. We didn't understand. I replied to each with the same sentence. You're welcome here when you can come. I sat at the table with the whiteboard terms in front of me, mug warm in my hands. It's fashionable to call things boundaries now, as if they were new. I remember my grandmother closing her front door at 9 each night and saying, the day is done. She didn't have a therapist, but she had a clear sense of what made her home a home. We didn't call it anything. We just lived in it. Around noon, Artem dropped by with Dasha to return a container and a hug. We've decided to do a small dinner with friends next week, he said. Parents optional, but invited. We may come, I said. We may not. But thank you for the invitation. He looked at the whiteboard again and smiled. We'll frame that, he said. You'll edit it, I said. That's what happens to good documents. They get lived in. We stood in the doorway and talked about nothing, traffic, weather, the ridiculous price of eggs. It felt like a reset. Not dramatic. Functional. That's all I'd ever wanted for us, a structure that holds. After they left, I washed the last platter by hand. The surface felt like a pond, slick and cool. I dried it and slid it onto the shelf where it will wait for the next gathering that could laugh itself into a memory. I took a photograph of the living room as it was, wrinkled tablecloth, a half-played game, a candle bent sideways as if listening. Occasionally, I think grief is just an extra chair you keep for someone who will never sit in it again. But joy too needs a chair. It won't stand if you don't make room. In the afternoon, I took the leftover bread to the lake. The roads were clear, the clouds stacked like folded quilts. At the cabin, the stove sighed as if I'd returned from a long errand. I walked to the shore and watched a single ice fisherman drill a cautious circle, the water beneath black and unquestionable. Gravity, water, ice, load, material. The same truths everywhere, nothing personal and entirely personal, depending on how you look at them. On the drive back, I passed the venue. Warm lights in the windows, another family gathered at round tables, a child running in circles with a ribbon. I wished them well. I wished them courage for their own small collisions. At the light, I thought of the line Dasha wrote on the back of their card, a life built on our terms. I don't object to the sentence anymore. I just know the clause that must come after it. And we will agree on those terms together. When I parked at home, a crisp envelope waited under the door. The refund check was inside, minus the fee as promised. I held it and considered depositing it. Then I pulled out my pen and wrote a smaller check to the food pantry down the street, the kind of place that makes sure respect comes with soup. I added a note. In honor of clear terms and kind tables. I set the 24 missed calls screenshot as my phone's background for exactly 5 minutes, just long enough to feel the jolt of what we'd stepped through and the humor of surviving it. Then I changed it to a photo of the whiteboard, the 7 lines tidy and plain, a manual for a machine we live inside. That evening, Artem texted, "We're thinking of a picnic by the lake in spring. Parents very welcome." "Understood," I wrote. Thumbs up. The moral doesn't need decoration. It doesn't need a sermon. It fits on a whiteboard and in a pot of soup and in the way you open your door and set the table. Respect for parents is the default setting. Turn it off if you must, but expect the system to ask you twice, "Are you sure?" Because a home is not a machine, and a father is not a vendor, and a family is not a brand. We are a room we build together, and we all have to live with the weight. So I leave my table set for one more and wipe the counter and check the chair legs and watch the kettle just begin to steam. And when the knock comes, I open the door,